The silent cry in space. Captain Elena Rodriguez never expected her routine patrol mission to change the course of human history. The U.S. Meridian, a mid-range exploration vessel, was conducting standard deep space surveys in the Vega sector when her sensor officer made a discovery that would echo across the galaxy. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures ahead," Lieutenant Chen Wei called from his station, his voice tight with confusion. "These readings, they don't match anything in our databases." Elena pushed herself up from the captain's chair and moved to Chen's station. On the screen before them, dozens of glowing dots clustered together like fireflies frozen in the cosmic dark. "How many contacts, Lieutenant?" 47 distinct signatures, Captain. "They're huge. Some of them are 3 times the size of our largest ships." But Chen paused, his fingers dancing across his controls. "They're not moving. At all." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Elena stared at the display, her mind racing through possibilities. A derelict fleet, some kind of space graveyard, or something far more dangerous. "Distance to the nearest contact?" she asked. 12 million kilometers in closing," replied Navigator Sarah Kim. "At our current speed, we'll reach visual range in 3 hours." Elena made her decision. Red alert. All hands to stations. Helm, reduce speed to quarter impulse. Tactical, run full diagnostics on all weapons systems. As her crew moved with practiced efficiency, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were approaching something unprecedented. In her 15 years of deep space service, she had encountered abandoned ships, pirate fleets, and even the occasional first contact scenario, but nothing had ever felt quite like this. 3 hours later, the mystery deepened. Through the main view screen, the alien fleet stretched before them like a city of lights adrift in the void. The ships were breathtakingly beautiful, their hulls flowing in organic curves that seemed to capture and bend starlight itself. Crystalline structures jutted from their surfaces, creating patterns that reminded Elena of coral reefs she had seen in Earth's oceans. "My God," whispered Dr. Marcus Thompson, the ship's chief science officer. "The architecture is unlike anything we've ever encountered. These designs defy conventional engineering principles, yet they're clearly functional." Communications Officer Lisa Park looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting transmissions from the fleet. They're weak and fragmented, but the computer is starting to identify patterns." "Put it through the speakers," Elena ordered. The bridge filled with haunting sounds, melodic tones that rose and fell like a cosmic lament. Even without understanding the language, everyone could hear the desperation in those transmissions. "It's a distress call," Lisa said softly. "Multiple distress calls. Actually, hundreds of them." Elena felt her chest tighten. "Life signs." Dr. Thompson bent over his scanner. "Massive readings, Captain. I'm detecting approximately 800,000 life forms across the fleet, but their biosignatures are weakening. Whatever's happening over there, they're in serious trouble." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. 800,000 beings, stranded in space, slowly dying while she watched. She had trained for first contact scenarios, but never like this. Never with so many lives hanging in the balance. "Lieutenant Park, can you establish communication?" Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. "I'm using the Universal Mathematics Protocol. If they're technologically advanced enough to build those ships, they should understand basic mathematical concepts." Long minutes passed as the computer worked to establish a translation matrix. Finally, Lisa looked up with excitement. "Captain, I think I've got something. They're calling themselves the Valians." The first translated message that came through would haunt Elena for the rest of her life. "Please, anyone, our children are dying. We have nowhere left to run." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command settle on her shoulders like never before. When she opened them, her voice was steady and sure. "Open a channel." "Channel open. Captain." "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earthship Meridian. We have received your distress signal. We are humans from the planet Earth, and we want to help. Please respond." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then, a new voice came through the speakers, weak but filled with desperate hope. "Humans, I am Fleet Commander Zarath of the Valian Refugee Fleet. You offer help to strangers, to beings you have never seen." Elena looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. She saw her own determination reflected in their eyes. "Commander Zarath, you're in distress. That's all we need to know. What can we do to help?" The response came through choked with emotion. "Our ships are dying, Captain Rodriguez. We have been fleeing the Crex Empire for 8 months. They destroyed our homeworld, slaughtered billions of our people. We escaped with what we could, but the Crex poisoned our power cores before we fled. Our life support systems are failing. Our food production has stopped, and our children," the voice broke, "our children are starving." Elena felt tears in her eyes. Through her view screen, she could see the alien ships more clearly now. What she had initially taken for running lights were actually emergency beacons. The beautiful crystalline structures were covered in scorch marks and hastily patched damage. "How long do you have?" she asked quietly. "Days, perhaps a week at most. We have sent distress signals across the galaxy, but no one answers. No one helps. The galaxy has learned to fear the Crex too much to risk sheltering their enemies." Elena made a decision that would change everything. "Commander Zarath, we're going to help you. I'm calling for the largest rescue fleet in human history. But first, I need to understand what we're dealing with. Will you allow a small team to board one of your ships?" You would come aboard, knowing nothing about us, knowing we might be dangerous. "You're refugees with children who are dying," Elena said simply. "You're not dangerous. You're people who need help." 2 hours later, Elena found herself in an alien ship unlike anything she had ever imagined. The Valian vessel was a wonder of biotechnology and crystal engineering. Living walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Commander Zarath met them at the airlock. The Valian was tall and graceful, with translucent skin that revealed a network of glowing veins beneath. Her large, multifaceted eyes held depths of sadness that spoke of unimaginable loss. "Captain Rodriguez," Zarath said, her voice musical even through the translator. "Welcome aboard the Harmony of Stars. I must warn you, what you will see may disturb you." Elena followed the alien commander through corridors filled with Valian civilians. The refugees looked up at the humans with expressions of wonder and hope. Children with skin like living crystal reached out to touch Elena's uniform, their eyes wide with curiosity. But it was in the medical bays that Elena truly understood the scope of the crisis. Hundreds of Valian young lay in crystalline beds, their inner light dim and flickering. Valian medics moved between them, their faces drawn with exhaustion and despair. "The Crex weapon attacks our biological systems," Zarath explained. "It was designed specifically to target Valian physiology. Our children, being more vulnerable, are affected first. We estimate that without intervention, we will lose half of them within days." Dr. Thompson was already scanning the patients with his medical tricorder. "Captain, their cellular structure is unlike anything we've seen, but there are similarities to carbon-based life forms. I think we might be able to help." Elena turned to Zarath. "Commander, I'm going to ask you to trust us. My government will need to know about this situation, and we'll need to call in every resource we have. This is going to be the largest rescue operation in human history." Zarath's eyes filled with something Elena had never seen in an alien face before, tears that sparkled like diamonds. "Captain Rodriguez, my people have wandered the galaxy for months, begging for sanctuary, pleading for help. Every species we encountered either turned us away or demanded payment we could not afford. You are the first to offer aid without asking what you might gain in return." "That's what humans do," Elena said quietly. "When someone needs help, we help. It doesn't matter if you're human or Valian, or something we've never seen before. Life is precious, and we don't abandon people in need. Elena activated her communicator. Rodriguez to Meridian. Priority Alpha transmission to Earth Command. Authorization Rodriguez 77 Alpha. Standing by, Captain, came the response. Elena looked around at the dying alien children, at the desperate hope in Zarath's eyes, at her own crew who were already working alongside Valian medics despite the language barrier. Earth Command, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the U.S. Meridian. I am declaring a Code 7 humanitarian emergency. We have encountered a refugee fleet of 800,000 beings in immediate danger of death. I am formally requesting Operation Lifeline protocols be activated immediately. We need medical ships, supply vessels, engineering support, and every resource we can muster. Time is critical. She paused, knowing that her next words would change everything. And Command, we're not alone in the universe anymore. And the people we found, they need us. As Elena's message raced through space toward Earth, she stood in an alien medical bay, watching human and Valian medics work side by side to save lives they had never seen before. In that moment, she knew that humanity had just taken its first real step into the galactic community. But she also knew that their troubles were just beginning. Somewhere out there, the Krex Empire was still hunting these refugees, and when they arrived, humanity would face its first test as protectors of the innocent among the stars. The question wasn't whether help would come. Elena knew her species well enough to know they would move heaven and earth to save these people. The question was whether it would come in time, and whether humanity was ready for what would happen when the Krex arrived to finish what they had started. As if in answer to her thoughts, the ship's alarms began to sound. Zarath's face went pale as crystal. Captain Rodriguez, she whispered, the Krex have found us. The choice that changed everything. The Krex war fleet emerged from hyperspace like predators, materializing from a nightmare. 28 massive ships, each one designed for conquest and destruction, took formation at the edge of the system. Their hulls were black as space itself, covered in weapon arrays that bristled like the spines of some terrible beast. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the U.S. Meridian, watching the enemy fleet deploy with military precision. Around her, the Valian refugee ships hung motionless in space, their power failing, their people dying. Between them and destruction stood one medium-sized exploration vessel and a hastily assembled human rescue fleet that had arrived just 6 hours earlier. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Rodriguez. Elena spoke into her communicator. Krex fleet has arrived. 28 vessels, all military configuration. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled back from the rescue fleet's flagship. Understood, Captain. We're analyzing their capabilities now. It doesn't look good. Elena could see the human rescue fleet through her view screen. 12 ships in total. Medical vessels, supply ships, even converted civilian transports pressed into emergency service. They had come in response to Elena's call, carrying doctors, engineers, and enough supplies to sustain the Valian refugees for months. But they had not come prepared for war. Captain, Lieutenant Chen Wei called from sensors. The Krex flagship is hailing us. Put it through. The main screen flickered, revealing the interior of a Krex command center. The beam that appeared made Elena's blood run cold. War Commander Thakrath was nearly 10 feet tall, his scaled hide bearing the ritual scars of countless battles. His eyes were black voids that seemed to swallow light, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of an empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds. I am War Commander Thakrath of the Krex 7th Fleet, the alien said, his words translated by the ship's computer. You will identify yourselves and explain your presence in this system. Elena stepped forward, drawing herself up to her full height. I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Alliance. These Valian refugees are under our protection. Thakrath's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. Humans, we have heard whispers of your species, but this is our first encounter. You are even more primitive than our intelligence suggested. Primitive or not, we're here, Elena replied steadily. Indeed, and you believe you can protect these criminals from the justice of the Krex Empire. These people aren't criminals, Elena said, her voice hardening. They're refugees fleeing genocide. They are property of the Krex Empire, Thakrath snarled. They will return to face judgment for their rebellion, or they will die here. As will you, if you continue this foolish interference. Elena looked around her bridge, seeing the determined faces of her crew. Behind her, she could feel the weight of 800,000 lives hanging in the balance. She thought of the Valian children she had seen in the medical bay, their light fading as they fought for survival. War Commander, she said quietly, these people came to us for help. We don't abandon people in need. That's not who we are. Then you will die with them, Thakrath replied. You have 1 hour to withdraw your forces and surrender the refugees. After that, we will take them by force. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Elena activated her communicator. All human vessels, this is Captain Rodriguez. Command conference in 30 minutes. The holographic conference room aboard Admiral Chen's flagship, filled with the images of 12 ship captains, doctors, engineers, cargo haulers, and explorers. They had come to save lives, not to fight a war. But now they faced an impossible choice. Options, Elena asked simply. Captain Marcus Webb of the medical ship Hippocrates spoke first. We could evacuate as many Valians as possible and try to outrun the Krex fleet. Our ships can't carry 800,000 people, Admiral Chen replied grimly. Even if we pack them in like cargo, we might save 50,000 at most. What about fighting? Asked Captain Lisa Park of the supply vessel Unity. 28 military vessels against 12 civilian ships. Admiral Chen shook her head. We'd last maybe 10 minutes. Dr. Thompson appeared on the conference display from the Valian flagship. Admirals, I've been working with the Valian engineers. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but their weapons systems were disabled by the same sabotage that crippled their engines. However, he paused dramatically. They have something else, something called a quantum resonance field. If we could get it working. What does it do? Elena asked. It could disrupt the Krex weapon systems, but only for a short time, maybe 15 minutes at most, and it would require enormous power, more than their failing systems can provide. Elena felt a spark of hope. What if we linked our power cores to theirs? Dr. Thompson's eyes widened. It's theoretically possible, but dangerous. One wrong calculation, and we could lose everything. We're going to lose everything anyway, Elena pointed out. At least this gives us a chance. Admiral Chen studied the faces of her captains. This is not a military decision. Each of you volunteered for a rescue mission, not a battle. I won't order anyone to stay and fight. One by one, the captains spoke up. The children I've been treating. I can't abandon them now. Dr. Sarah Kim, Chief Medical Officer. I've got 3,000 Valian refugees aboard my ship. Where I go, they go. Captain Michael Torres, Transport Vessel. My engineers have been working side by side with the Valians for 6 hours. They're not strangers anymore. They're friends. Chief Engineer Patricia Wong. Elena felt her heart swell with pride as every single captain voted to stay and fight. Then it settled. Admiral Chen said, Dr. Thompson, how long do you need to set up this quantum field? At least 45 minutes, assuming everything goes perfectly. Elena checked her chronometer. We have 57 minutes until the Krex ultimatum expires. Let's get to work. What followed was the most frantic technical operation in human history. Human engineers swarmed through Valian ships, connecting power conduits and integrating systems that had never been designed to work together. The language barrier dissolved as humans and Valians worked together with hand signals, shared diagrams, and the universal language of engineering desperation. Elena found herself working alongside Fleet Commander Zarath in the central resonance chamber of the Valian flagship. The alien commander's hands moved with precise grace as she calibrated crystalline arrays that hummed with barely contained energy. "Captain Rodriguez," Zorath said as they worked, "why do your people do this? Why risk everything for strangers?" Elena paused in her work on a power coupling. "Because someone has to," she said simply. "Because if we don't help when people need it, what kind of species are we?" "The galaxy is not kind to such idealism," Zorath warned. "The strong prey upon the weak, and mercy is seen as weakness." "Maybe," Elena replied. "But maybe it's time someone changed that." The Krek's ultimatum expired with 3 minutes to spare. Dr. Thompson's voice echoed through the fleet's communications. "Quantum resonance field is online. All ships report ready." Elena returned to her bridge as the Krek's fleet began to move. 28 warships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging with ominous energy. Against them stood 12 human vessels and 47 disabled Valian ships, linked together by desperate hope and jury-rigged power connections. "All ships," Elena broadcast, "remember we only get one shot at this. When the field activates, we hit them with everything we have. Make it count." The battle began with a display of Krek's firepower that lit up space like a deadly aurora. Plasma bolts and particle beams lanced toward the refugee fleet, promising certain destruction. Then the quantum field activated. Reality seemed to twist around the Krek's weapons. Energy beams bent and scattered. Plasma bolts dissipated into harmless light, and for 15 precious minutes, the most powerful war fleet in the galaxy was rendered toothless. "Now," Elena shouted. The human ships moved with desperate courage. The medical vessel Hippocrates, armed with nothing but mining lasers, carved into a Krek's destroyer. The cargo ship Unity, its holds empty after distributing supplies, rammed a Krek's cruiser at full speed. Even the Valian ships, their weapon systems suddenly restored by the quantum field, joined the fight with beam weapons that painted space in brilliant colors. Elena's own ship, the Meridian, targeted the Krek's flagship. "All power to forward phasers," she ordered. "Target their command center." The beams struck home, punching through the Krek's ship shields and causing explosions to blossom across its hull. War Commander Thakrath's image appeared on the screen, his scaled face twisted with rage and disbelief. "Impossible," he snarled. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm Krek's vessels." "Looks like you were wrong about how primitive we are," Elena replied, just before another salvo from the Meridian sent the Krek's flagship spinning out of control. But the quantum field was failing. Elena could see the energy readings dropping as the improvised connections began to overload. They had maybe 2 minutes left before the Krek's regained their overwhelming advantage. That's when Admiral Chen made the decision that would echo through galactic history. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Implement Protocol 7. Full power to the quantum field." Elena's blood ran cold. Protocol 7 meant diverting all power from life support, engines, and shields directly into the weapon systems. It was a suicide tactic that would give them one massive burst of firepower at the cost of leaving them completely defenseless. "Admiral, if we do this..." "I know, Captain, but we're going to save these people if it's the last thing we do." Across the human fleet, captains gave the same order. Power cores were pushed beyond their safety limits, life support systems shut down, and every last erg of energy was channeled into their weapons. The final salvo was magnificent and terrible. 12 human ships fired as one, their combined firepower amplified by the quantum field into a wave of destruction that swept through the Krek's formation like the wrath of an angry god. 18 Krek's vessels simply vanished, torn apart by forces beyond their comprehension. The remaining 10 Krek ships, including the crippled flagship, retreated into hyperspace, carrying with them the news that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity had arrived, and they fought like demons to protect the innocent. Elena found herself in the medical bay of the Valian flagship 3 hours later, her own ship having suffered critical damage in the battle. Around her, human and Valian medics worked together to treat the wounded, while engineers from both species labored to repair the damage. Fleet Commander Zorath approached her, moving carefully on an injured leg. "Captain Rodriguez, I have received word from my government in exile. They wish to formally request an alliance with humanity." Elena looked up from the casualty reports she had been reviewing. "An alliance? Your species has done something today that no one believed possible. You stood against the Krex Empire and won. But more than that, you proved that there are still people in the galaxy who will fight for what is right, not just what is profitable." Elena thought of the 12 human ships that had answered her call, of the captains who had voted to fight rather than flee, of the engineers who had worked miracles to make impossible technology function. "Commander," she said finally, "I think that alliance sounds like a very good idea." As news of the battle spread across the galactic communication networks, other species began to take notice. The Krex Empire, for the first time in centuries, had been defeated. The refugees they had hunted had found protectors, and those protectors had proven that mercy was not weakness, but strength. Elena Rodriguez had set out on a routine patrol mission. She returned as the captain who had changed the galaxy, leading a convoy of refugee ships toward their new home in human space. Behind her, the rescue fleet carried not just 800,000 Valian survivors, but the seed of something new. A coalition of species dedicated to protecting the innocent from those who would prey upon them. The galaxy would never be the same, and in the years that followed, when other refugees fled tyranny and oppression, they would remember the story of the human fleet that stood against impossible odds to save strangers they had never met. They would remember that somewhere among the stars, there were people who believed that helping others wasn't just the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do. Elena Rodriguez had helped answer the silent cry in space, but in doing so, humanity had announced to the galaxy that Earth's children were ready to take their place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of hope itself.